Hello, everyone. This is JPL. Today I'm joined with
Christopher!
yes, in our podcast name in brackets.
In brackets.
Yes.
Not just in brackets, but in person.
Oh my gosh, we're together again.
We're together again.
Oh wow, nobody cares, but we're together again.
Yeah. We care, though.
For about a week. But anyway, I've been here for almost a week, so it's been fun.
You got here Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
I left Wednesday.
Right.
Got here Thursday.
If you think about it, you left on May the 4th
Oh yes, it's been a week since I left.
on a special mission.
Shut up, Christopher.
What? No, it makes sense. It's like a total God thing. If you think about it, the fact that you left on May the 4th on a special mission.
Right. Like I wasn't even thinking about May the 4th.
Huh?
I was driving.
I know. Still.
Anyway, we're in person.
We're in person. Why did he come here? Because he was sent on a special mission.
I was like, I don't know, I got bored. And I was like, Christopher, I'll see you.
It's very interesting. Like, he finished classes, and the next day he's like, I'm so bored, I might as well just drive to Branson.
And we're going to play some mini golf.
Yeah, we played mini golf. That was fun.
That was a fun day.
That was fun.
I lost both times.
Oh, yeah. I legit thought you were going to win the second one, but there's one hole where you completely bombed on.
There was just one hole that got me, that let you come back.
Yeah. Because that game, my first shot.
Yeah, the first shot on the practice course, no less.
Was it?
I mean, it was the first one.
First hole.
That's typically the practice one.
Okay.
Essentially.
First hole.
You put it in the water.
Put it in the water.
And that was just your first putt.
Who does that?
You do, apparently.
Okay, I've never seen John laugh like that before. You were just clowning me with your laugh.
Yeah, I mean...
You had such a good time with that.
Yeah, it wasn't even my real laugh, but yes. It was like my public laugh.
But it was all the same genuine.
Yeah,
it was genuinely amused.
It was a genuine amusement, oh, look at that idiot, that kind of thing.
Seriously, that's what it was like. Oh my gosh,
it was kind of like that. I really enjoyed that.
But yeah, I kind of noticed that since John is older than me, during our mini golf games, I completely transformed into your younger brother.
Okay.
I was just totally acting like a kid. I was just pissed off that you were leading and
yeah,
and just trying to win.
I know.
And then, I don't know if you noticed, but when I saw that I tied you or started overtaking you, I completely mellowed out.
You were in charge of counting the numbers. So I didn't want to know.
Right.
I knew that you probably knew. So it was I didn't really care.
Yeah.
Then I lost, and I was like, how did I lose?
There's that one stupid hole.
I thought he was far behind me.
There was that one hole where you got 11 on.
I got 11.
The crazy thing is your first shot, it was almost a hole in one.
It was almost a hole in one because I cheesed it and had it bounce on the wall and almost landed straight in.
It was right there.
I wanted that to happen.
If you caught that, you would have won by a long shot.
See, it would have been hilarious as well because I put the ball on the grass. I looked over and thought this is gonna be a stupid hole, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna cheese it, and I just smacked it without any thought, and almost went in.
And guess what? It was a stupid hole.
It was a stupid hole.
I got a 4 or 5 on that one.
And I got an 11.
You got 11.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was really fun.
There was one really interesting hole.
Yeah.
Where, it was so hard to hit the shot, and if you didn't, it was a 9 out of 10 chance you would have hit it in the water. Kind of shot. It was the way it was constructed.
Yeah,
almost.
with the rocks.
Yeah, and you got it.
I got it into the water.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that because I was completely freaking out. It's like, oh no, I'm losing my ball.
Yeah,
again,
no.
but
So like
nope.
my first ball went into the water, but then I picked it up.
Oh, right. You had the mud. Your ball got stuck in the mud.
It got stuck in the mud.
Okay.
And then it was like, because the thing was on an incline, I couldn't just putt from there. So I said, okay,
Right.
I just call this my second stroke and
Yeah.
just let it slide down.
Mm-hmm.
But then like you hit it into the rocks.
It obviously went in the water.
But there was a tunnel.
It was literally like another hole.
There was a tube.
Well, like, no, yeah.
Going into the rocks. So like when it popped out, I was like, what? There was a tube the entire time? I worried about this for nothing?
Like, I thought you were going to clown me all over again. And I had to go back in and get another ball.
I was focused on, I was like waiting at the bottom of the little river for the ball to come down.
Me too.
And
well,
then,
I wasn't at the bottom. I was like, waiting for that moment.
And then I just rolled onto the grass through a little tube. And I was just so confused.
That was like the best mini golf surprise ever.
Right.
Like the I don't. Are there two in Lynchburg?
I have no idea.
Okay, but there's one in Lynchburg. Like, it does the job for mini golf, but in comparison to the one
we went to a pirate themed one.
The pirate theme one was cool, but like in comparison to Lynchburg one, the Lynchburg one is kind of lame. You know what I mean? So
right.
It's been a while since I've had a fun mini golf experience, and that was fun. And so like again, that was
our
a huge
first
surprise.
one was that on a zoo type place.
Yeah, that was.
It was very short, very short. Easy, but it was glow in the dark, which was cool.
That is true. I really wonder what the rate of that would have been. You know what I mean? Like, would it? Would have been really interesting if we compared the two places and their rates. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, we didn't do that for reasons. Because of where I'm work, that we have like affiliations with other places where I can get do some things for free and they can see our show for free. So
right,
kind of cool. So yeah, what else have we done? We've eaten out at a handful of different places.
Yeah, mainly me.
You've exclusively pretty much had burgers.
Yeah,
burgers are amazing though.
They are, but I had chicken today to like spice things up.
Okay, so you don't consider that a burger?
No, it's a chicken sandwich.
Then
I typically say burgers are made from beef.
Why don't we call those beef sandwiches?
Because they're burgers.
Why can't we call a chicken sandwich a burger?
We've had the conversation.
Have we?
We have, yes. And I don't want to do this again.
Okay.
It's such a stupid conversation. I'm so tired of this one.
It's... Okay. I don't know. Do you like cheese, John?
Depends. But no.
There we go. See, I just... Never mind. Okay, we'll leave that.
We'll leave that because that's a whole nother thing.
That could be a whole podcast, but a very frustrating podcast that could end up in a bet and $15 and ruin our relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bet. Like you just park in the wrong spot and have to pay $15 to get out of the parking lot. You know.
Okay, but yeah, we've mostly eaten at like chains.
Mainly chains.
But there's been a few like dying chains we've gone to.
We went to Fuddruckers. Which like I went to a lot in quote unquote a lot. I went to in Pennsylvania during my middle school years with my dad. It was this thing that we do every time we got like a haircut because it was near the barbers. It was like a fun little thing that we would do from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would typically get their sliders that they had there, but they don't do sliders anymore, which was a shame. And we did that, and that was fine, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the main one.
Anyway, so Branson.
Oh yeah, John. What are your thoughts on Branson?
You know, it was an interesting time. Like I showed up, and it's like, oh, you know, this is Branson, cool. It looks like they have a couple attractions. Then I'm driving around waiting for you to get off work, and I'm like totally lost. And then I enter the main strip of Branson.
Yes.
And I was like, holy crap. This place is Las Vegas. And it really was. Like, there was like all these different giant attractions on this main strip. It was like, whoa, there's the Titanic. Whoa, what is this? And it's like, I was freaking out. I was driving my car, and I was going, what's the speed limit? Who's behind me?
Yeah.
Is that a wax museum? I don't know what's going on, but I gotta stop at a Walmart and process this.
And the worst part is there's a roller coaster across the street from that Walmart.
Yeah, yeah, it was. So like, you stopped at the very sketchy Walmart, and it was like, I'll get Pop-Tarts.
That's what you did?
I bought
Oh my gosh.
I bought Pop-Tarts. I was like, I don't know. Did I need to? No.
No.
But like, I've been enjoying my Pop-Tarts here.
Yeah. I don't blame you, man. I remember the first time I drove on that strip, and I swear I was probably 5 cars behind me upset that, I was going so slow because it's pure information overload.
It was information overload.
John, I need to drive you down the strip at night.
Oh no.
Yes.
No.
I will drive. So you don't have to. John, you thought it was Las Vegas? Wait till it's nighttime.
I'm seeing stars. My gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
Taking a sip of that water. Oh
Yeah.
boy, you killed me there.
I did. Yeah. No, John, I seriously have to. It's the experience. Like if we need to finish your Branson experience on a high note.
See, I thought the high note was Silver Dollar City.
Yeah, we'll be doing that at the end of the week.
And we're apparently trying Mr. Beast Burger.
We're gonna try. So that will be in Springfield. That's not Branson.
Yeah.
For your heads.
Like I've been hearing scary stories about Springfield by your coworkers.
Really?
They're like, oh no, I don't want to go Springfield. I feel like my life is in danger every time I go there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's funny? So one of my coworkers, he lives in Springfield. One of my former coworkers, she also lives in Springfield.
Right.
They commute the full hour every day to and from Branson. They live in Springfield. Anyways, my other coworkers, he loves food. He loves going to Springfield to try out food over at Springfield. Honestly, I can't believe how often my coworkers go to Springfield. So honestly, that's almost a new side of my coworkers I haven't heard. Wow.
I mean, it was mainly like when they were talking about going to the movie theaters.
Really?
Over there. Like, I go to the theaters, but then when I go out, I feel like there's just these...
Here's the crazy...
very weird people that like freak me out. They're like zombies in how they move. They're passed out on the street. It's like wild.
I cannot believe, like, again, when we went to see Doctor Strange, there was a group of my coworkers who went to Springfield to see the movie, while we also have an IMAX in Branson. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me that you drive an hour. They don't go to the IMAX, but they still drive an hour out to see a movie.
Right.
While we already have a theater in town.
But like, it's IMAX is more expensive.
True, but especially the gas prices, it's essentially a wash, if not even more expensive to drive out. You know what I mean?
Like they're not thinking like that.
They're not. The thing is, I guess, so there's one particular theater that they love the experience of or whatever.
Sure.
So that's the one they go to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But yeah, I mean, like Springfield isn't necessarily like Branson has its sketchy areas too. Springfield has its city sketchy areas, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. Like I don't necessarily hang out in Springfield necessarily either. But
yeah.
I mean,
we had a nice day doing absolutely nothing at all. That's all I'll say about that.
Really?
I mean, I had a fun time.
Wait, which today?
No,
Monday.
Monday. That day, you know.
Did you have a fun time?
I mean, here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
You saw me. I was cheery.
You were cheery. I wasn't necessarily upset that you were cheery, but it was almost shocking how cheery you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't want to talk about it?
See, only if you want to talk about it.
Okay, so essentially on Sunday we had an issue, I thought it was gonna be just a one-time thing. On Monday we were gonna go to Springfield to try out Mr. Beast Burgers. And I tried to start my car after getting gas in Branson West, which is the town nearby. Yes, it is its own separate town. And it wouldn't start exactly the previous day. And I tried it enough where I just felt like it was an issue.
And we were right next to an O'Reilly, so I pushed the car.
You pushed it as I steered it.
Yeah.
I offered to do it the other way because I push stuff for a living.
I know, but then you just...
No, I offered, but you hopped out.
No.
What? No.
Because like you offered that, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do that. And then we got to the point, it's like, okay, let's do this. And you just stayed there on the steering.
No, I thought you jumped out. I thought like you offered and jumped out.
I jumped out while I looked at you for a few seconds, waiting, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm pushing.
Okay, pure miscommunication.
I misunderstood that.
Well, then I misunderstood you too.
Sure.
Okay, pure miscommunication.
I pushed it, which was fun.
Anyways, replace the battery. Wasn't that... Well, no, the battery was low. It needed replacing anyways.
Yeah.
But it was the starter, so...
Well, I mean, let's not go specific. So we caught a guy who did the job.
He did the job well. I would recommend that. If I...
But boy, he had terrible bedside manner. Because everything he said made us worried.
It did make us worried, honestly.
I was laughing.
You were.
I was just I guess it was also oh, well, I guess I had to make the best of the situation. Otherwise, it would be such a boring thing. So I just...
Yeah.
I put on a happy face.
End of the day, it worked out. And based on his work, I would recommend him. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, here's the thing. With Branson, it's really hard for me to trust anybody because it's such a touristy town. Mm-hmm. And I feel like even I can be ripped off easily.
Sure.
So he did the job. We essentially negotiated a fair price.
Right.
And on that basis, I would recommend him. But I'll just leave it at that. But it was worrying and upsetting. But yeah, it was I was just exasperated that day.
Right.
Because it's one thing to do. First off, car trouble gives me minor trauma. We've talked about on the podcast before. I've been in a car accident. That's pure trauma right there. Mm. Minor trauma in that I hate these situations.
Right.
You know what I mean? I get really antsy during these kind of situations, not in the accident kind of way, but in a way where I'm just stressed.
And I guess for me, I could be chipper because it wasn't my car.
That's true. I just felt bad because you're here. That's kind of what it made it worse. Not that you're... there's some people I definitely wouldn't be in that wouldn't want to be in that situation with.
Right.
What I hate is that I was hosting a guest this week. We had plans that day.
We did.
And we couldn't do anything.
No.
Well, we did. We got a ride back home and watched a Star Wars movie, and we'll talk about Star Wars in a moment.
I mean, we went to lunch, and then we
did go to lunch.
I guess we watched Star Wars.
Yeah. So, it worked out, but, that's not the way I'd want to host a guest. Essentially.
Right.
But you played me Weird Al's Polka Jam to cheer me up.
Weird Al's Polka Jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how chipper you were. Does that say anything, podcast people? That's how chipper John was. He played me Weird Al's Polka
I was doing whatever I could to make you less stressed about the situation.
Well, actually, so you were saying you like to watch movies.
Right. Whenever I have a stressful situation or just things in general,
It's called escapism.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, we actually watched a Star Wars movie, and that actually did help me take it out of my thing.
So, speaking of that...
Well, just a moment. There was some article that I don't know if I read but heard about, but
sure.
When people scroll on social media, they get a similar high or same high to when people do alcohol.
Right.
And and that has almost informed something to me. I don't necessarily know if it necessarily informed my actions, but to be a little more conscious about it is like, the idea of escapism. Is it, I don't know if it's good or bad, you know what I mean? Because we have entertainment for the purpose of escapism, and I don't think that's necessarily bad.
But like a lot of people, I can even say to myself to like several extents, like we do too much escapism or just consumerism is another word to put it as well.
That's fair. I think definitely, like, for me, one of the things I notice myself doing is I will edit.
Right.
To escape.
Sure.
Which can help me process in a way and, like, put myself in a better state of mind. But at the same time, it's still a form of escapism, and I don't know. It's like, this is like something I, like, in the back of my head would like to research more.
Sure.
But just never make the time to because I'm just so busy.
And I know for me, I'm just always wanting to watch stuff.
Right.
Like, even when I'm doing other things, I'm like,
Right.
I can't wait till I get home and just watch stuff.
I find it. So we were talking about like our different watching habits.
Our different watching habits, because like we of course have different habits, but like
Yeah.
I was watching your habits and I was going, oh no, Christopher, that's not a good way to do this.
You want to talk about something else?
So essentially, you like to watch movies late at night, and you describe it as you don't even just like do it right away. You always put watching things at the last minute.
I do.
So
part of that, I don't think I mentioned this
right
during our time. I probably mentioned it before, but basically it takes a lot to convince myself I'm going to watch something. And that's not just movies, that's also music. When I want to listen to an album, I have to convince myself I'm going to listen to an album. So, like, it's really hard for me to just jump into something.
Right.
Like there are some things, I would argue, like South Park, where it's not always the first thing I turn to, but that's just easier for me to turn on. Like South Park, Marvel, I know the format, I know the style. It's not a lot to convince my brain to get into. You know what I mean?
Right.
But most other things, I, like, really have to convince myself, be like, okay, do I want to do this? Do I know what I'm getting myself into? So, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But, like, you watch this thing. You have a projector.
I have a projector.
Which is cool.
Really
That's
cool.
nice.
It is nice.
But when I saw you, you were, like, laying on the bed, laying on the floor, looking up. And, like, being in such a comfortable position. To the point where I was looking at you, was like, is he paying attention or is he starting to doze off? Because, like, I know that a lot of times if I'm, like, in a very comfortable lay down position, like, I'll start falling asleep. Which is why, like, I watch things sitting up. That's why I took the chair. Or I bring a chair into your room because, like, I can't sleep with my back on the wall because that's just a pain on my back.
Right.
So I sit in the chair so that I'm focused. I do it because my full attention is on this thing.
Right.
Whereas when I'm laying down, half of my attention is being taken by my body.
Really?
To, like, rest.
Huh.
Because that's what you do when you're in a resting position. You rest.
Interesting. Because I had always, like if I was watching something in the living room, we have couches, those are comfortable enough. But, like, a chair, I've never, like, considered comfortable enough for me to, like, sit and watch something.
See, chairs are, like, there to be able to not lay down. So, like, chair, not very comfortable. But you can be focused while sitting in the chair.
Because, like, after, like, 30 minutes, I have to, like, change my position because I get uncomfortable.
Yeah. But, like, the last few movies, you took the chair, and, like, I could see that you spend more time with the chair each movie that we saw.
That's true.
Because at some point you would transition back onto the floor.
Yes. Because I would get bored enough to want to lay down, essentially. Or tired in some cases.
Yeah. And in my case, when I watch movies, I tend to watch movies during the daytime.
So that's another thing is, like, I've kind of conditioned myself where I want the day to be able to work because I have an afternoon late night job.
Yeah.
Not necessarily late night, but night job. Essentially, most of my hours are between 2 to 10. Those are my normal 8-hour days. And so my idea is to get things done in the morning. So edit, errands, whatever, not waste time to watch things. And then at night, if I wanted to, like, that's when I would prefer to watch something because I'm exhausted. I obviously don't want to do anything perfect time to consume.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will watch things in the morning, but that's kind of been rare of late. I remember I went through a lot of the MCU, I think both at morning and night.
Right.
My first time. But yeah, also like sometimes I'm not always in the mood to watch something hyper serious at night, or honestly, it just really depends. It really depends.
It really depends.
I will take that statement back. Regardless, let's put it this way. What I was gonna say is sometimes I want to watch something like Black Swan.
Yeah, sure.
And there are other times where I'm tired, but not tired enough to fall asleep, but tired enough where I don't want to watch something like Black Swan or Inception. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I will put on maybe like a rom-com where I'm expecting to get bored enough to pause and fall asleep in the middle of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if I know I really want to go to sleep, I'll put on The Office because that's boring enough that it puts me to sleep, but it's entertaining enough where I don't turn it off.
Sure.
The Office puts me to sleep, like especially at night. I haven't tried watching it during the day because if I want to watch The Office, I'll go on YouTube to watch clips. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, were there any other things you observed?
I mean, like,
I feel like you've observed a handful of things. I gave a bunch of rebuttals.
you did. It was also like I was just wondering. It's like because there were many times where we would call each other and you talked about like, oh, I watched this movie. I watched half of it, then I went to sleep. And I was like,
you've noticed.
I've noticed that. Well, like I wasn't like. Part of my mind is like, oh, he does that. And then, like, we watch our first movie together here, and I look at you laying on your bed, and it's like, yeah, you would get tired after halfway through the movie.
And I'm not going to lie, you made me aware of that, because I didn't realize that happens, because as soon as you kind of started saying that, I started to notice I get tired when I lay down. So I'm like, well, John, you completely ruined laying down for me.
I know, because, like... There's sometimes sometimes, very few times where like I'm sitting on the couch watching something and then I feel like, oh, I'm just gonna lay down on my side. It's like, oh yeah, but now I'm getting tired. I gotta sit straight up again.
Yeah.
So
as a result, because we watched the original trilogy of Star Wars mostly at night.
And we watched Star Wars, by the way, guys.
Yeah, well, we're really close to that.
Yes.
Because we watched most of the original trilogy at night.
Yes.
And we noticed that I was piecing out pretty easily.
To the point like you were missing very simple things.
I miss really simple things, period.
Right, but like...
You pointed something out in Rogue One that I'm like, what? Remember? You're like, did you know that was CG? I'm like, what?
That one's understandable, because like, you wouldn't know.
Still.
But like...
It's my first viewing, John. Give me a break. Did you notice when the trooper bonked his head? Of course I would. It's my first time, John.
I made a noise.
Anyways, yeah, so like we watched most of the original trilogy at night. 2 and 3 definitely at night. But
like 5 was definitely very late at night. It was like 1 a.m. that we started watching that.
Did we?
Yes.
No, 5. Right,
yes.
5. I'm still struggling with the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and so then we watched we did watch A New Hope in the afternoon, but that's when I was laying in my bed and you started noticing that.
Yes.
So essentially, especially during the prequels, I sat in my chair.
Yeah.
Out of respect for you.
Out of respect for me.
But also would transition on the ground to lay down at points. I think during Sith and Rogue One, I was mostly in my chair for those 2.
Right. Plus, like, you were most engaged with those films.
Yes.
As well.
But yeah, those we pretty much watched in the morning.
We did.
Yeah.
For my sake, mainly.
But my sake, too.
Right, but I really was happier watching it in the morning.
And I was more focused.
Right.
Because I was dozing off during the originals.
Right.
Multiple times.
Mm.
I remember there was 1 minute in episode 5 where I don't remember any dialogue.
And that was pretty much what I was talking about, you missing things because you were sleeping there.
That was one specific point, though.
Mm.
If anything, like, I fell asleep after 6. You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't miss anything during the movie like that. You know what I mean?
Wait, was 6 like when you just passed out?
I passed out when we were going to watch number 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like you had this idea. It's like, oh, what's out 6, and then we'll watch number 1. So like we as soon as we finish 6, you start talking about 1 or 2 things. Then it's like, okay, I'm gonna let me look at something on my phone.
Yes.
And I'm like waiting patiently. And then I look at you, and you're just you were just passed out, face down on the ground, sleeping. Like starting to snore.
I snore?
Like, very softly. It's
Okay.
like very subtle.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. Like, what do I do? Because, like, you had left the projector on. Like, the lights were still on. I was like, what do I wait till he wakes up? Like, is he sleeping? I don't know. I sat there for, like, maybe 5 minutes. And I was like, I guess he really is asleep. Okay. Then I just turned off everything and just went to bed.
Yeah. I think based on how tired I was, I think it was probably a good decision.
And that was really where I was like, it should not be a good thing where as soon as you finish a movie, you pass out. Without thinking or discussing it.
I did discuss a few things. Okay.
Not really.
Okay.
Because we discussed it when you woke up the next morning. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyways. All that to say, we're watching something tonight.
Anyway.
No, all that to really say, John's special mission was to take me through Star Wars for my very first time.
Yeah, we talked about this in the podcast before, but here is us doing it.
So the thing is, so I first watched the MCU for the first time last year. For a recap for anybody who have not been listening to the podcast, which is pretty much everybody. Went through the MCU for the first time last year, enjoyed my time in that, watched through it at least twice, a handful of movies, additional time, right? I enjoyed it, right? But I was humbled by Star Wars. Marvel. I was humbled by Marvel. Because I thought both Marvel and Star Wars were lame mainstream things that for some people, for some reason, everybody likes, but it's just lame because it's mainstream. You know what I mean? And especially if you, I mean, yeah. So Marvel humbled me, and so I wasn't ready to give Star Wars a try right away, but eventually, right?
And like you were, and like we talked about this many times, where it's like, I would rather get into Star Wars than Lord of the Rings or even DC first.
Mm-hmm. So somehow, did I pitch the idea of you coming? Because there was a mixture of, us talking about visiting each other, or more or less you visiting me, to especially see a few of our some of the people we went to college with work at my place.
Right.
And you taking me through Star Wars. I don't remember which conversation went first, but they merged somehow.
But then, like, suddenly the idea popped in and stuck.
Yes.
To the point where I really thought about it and was like, I could do this.
Yes.
Because then, like, it was also lining up better because, like, we can watch Doctor Strange in theaters together.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And we did a podcast on that.
Yes.
So, do that.
I almost forgot about that.
Like, the movie itself. Not really. But yeah, this was a 15-hour drive.
Mm-hmm. And you got to see the show at the place I work, Sight and Sound Theaters.
Yeah.
I recommend, honestly.
I saw the show.
Yeah.
It was nice,
Yeah. I think it's my favorite show of ours. I haven't seen all our shows, but what I've seen, like, there's also the fact that I've heard it hundreds of times, where it's more than just me tolerating it, but it's by now that I know if I like it or not. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I like it. I genuinely do. There's definitely a few moments where I could care less about, but I'm not cringing each time I hear them on stage. You know what I mean? But yeah, I had gotten also to the point with Marvel where I'm like, I understand the world enough. I'm willing to jump into another world. Because people, right after I watch Marvel, they're like, you have to watch Star Wars. I'm like, screw you. I'm trying to process Marvel. Give me time and eventually I'll check out Star Wars.
Right.
And then honestly, with the disappointment of Doctor Strange, it was, or
you were disappointed with
hype.
disappointed with Doctor Strange that you decided to watch Star Wars earlier.
Really?
Because we weren't going to watch A New Hope until like Sunday.
That's true.
And then like Friday, like right after lunch, he's like, you know what?
We have enough time. Let's do it.
It's like, what time? How long is the movie? Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I'll eat anything Marvel feeds me.
Right.
But I was that exasperated after Doctor Strange.
Which you should listen to our podcast. Though.
Yes.
Listen more about that.
Yeah, that I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just start it. So let me give a little bit of background. Because I've repeated myself like 5 times over this whole week to different people. And I can't remember what I've said, and I don't remember what I've said on the podcast. So then again, no one listens to this, so who cares? I saw Marvel and Star Wars in the same light prior to going through either of them. They were both mainstream, and everyone liked both of them. I was a little more conscious of Star Wars before Marvel, despite Marvel having some recognizable characters in the past. During my childhood, specifically Spider-Man and Hulk. And also that was a time when I confused Marvel and DC. They were just superheroes, you know what I mean? So Batman and Superman were also notable characters at the time as well. Anyways, so I saw, Marvel and Star Wars in the same light. Didn't care for them. Thought they were mainstream. But due to class assignment, I watched Iron Man, and I thought it was just like an action flick, bam, bam, pow. I was really like taken aback, like the heart behind the story of Iron Man, and a character I really resonated with. And so, what led out of me to see more Tony Stark threw me into enjoying the whole MCU as a whole. So I was humbled by Marvel, and I went into Star Wars with a similar mindset in that, okay, so it's going to be more than the Bam Bam Pow. There's going to be some emotional heart to it, you know what I mean? Because why else would people like Star Wars so much? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Spoiler alert, it's nostalgia bias, and I'll be pointing at that multiple times. But like this whole time, I've seen Marvel and Star Wars same light. Oh, it's mainstream. Oh no, people love it. There's a reason why people love it. So I went into Star Wars expecting the same emotional reaction from me that I got from Iron Man. I did not get that. I got the Bam Bam Pow that I wasn't expecting. Now, Marvel helped me appreciate action in movies more, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I really do see Star Wars as there's obviously a story behind it, and it's not just a basic story. It's a thought out world, thought out story, whatever. But I really did see it being a product of its time in order to showcase technology in the movies. Let's try something, let's do it, and let's make a movie. You know what I mean? Obviously, again, there was a reason behind, but with Pixar, I did a little bit of research, and I really feel like they're an animation studio first a lot of the times, storyteller second sometimes, but there's nothing to animate if there's no story. You know what I mean? So like Nemo, like one of the reasons why they made that is to really perfect underwater animation, and which they did successfully. Wall-E, Space. I mean, those were core stories from their napkin, right?
Right.
But at the same time, they still took those as challenges for them as an animation studio. So, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I know that some people can point to specific Pixar movies that have weak stories, but probably for them as a studio were advancement moments in animation and technology. And so that's how I kind of came away, first off, with A New Hope. Disappointed I didn't get an emotional connection. I didn't really connect with many of the characters. And I saw it, again, a product of its time to try to push and showcase technology, which isn't bad. Again, 40 years ago or whatever, like, that's amazing what they were able to do, right? And I, again, nostalgia bias where, children see this, they're awed by it, they grew up on this, they're full of imaginative minds, and, they run with it. And so this is innate in their childhood, and they introduce it to their children and so on. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what I've really realized about Star Wars. There's a lot of nostalgia behind it, and it's been unfairly overhyped for me, where everyone loves it because they grew up on it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't get that. I'll take you through the journey, but that's essentially the big preface. First off, it's more than just... Well, okay. I was actually surprised how good they looked. Especially the originals. Including A New Hope. I mean, it still looks dated. And I know I watched the remastered one, but I was still really impressed, like, how good it looked. But the most interesting thing I kind of, dare I say, discovered off the bat was the style, almost pacing, but it's a very different direction of a movie. George Lucas directed all the first 6 movies, right?
He directed the first one.
He directed the first one
Yes.
of the original trilogy.
Yes.
Okay. Regardless,
And then he was just
but
in control of the others. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
He still had a hand in the others, but the point is, like, he had a very specific vision of how to do the movie. I remember before I saw movies, I kind of complained about just them being a little too overdramatic in forms of cinema, because I kind of appreciate more the realism. As time has gone on, I've been able to appreciate the art more. I think, like, I've probably talked to you about this with music lately. I haven't been so focused on lyrics lately. I've been mostly looking at songs that sound good. You know what I mean? And that's mostly K-pop. I've been really loving my K-pop stuff lately. So like those just, they sound great. And honestly, like, most of the songs lyrically are dumb love songs. There's nothing necessarily deep about them. So they just sound great. You know what I mean? So I've been lately also been appreciating more of the art of cinema, but also, like, Marvel kind of helped. I feel like Marvel's a great, like, bridging point, where it's like, oh, I'm interested in movies. You go through Marvel, and it helps branch you out into the other styles that can be out there. You know what I mean? And especially of recent, like WandaVision. Let's pay homage to, old TV shows. Oh, that's a cool style. I might want to check out more of those. You check out Vin Van Dyke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Marvel is a great branching point. You know what I mean? They're almost like for me as a rock fan, like, you think about those, like, bands that helped introduced me into metal, like Skillet and Red, for some, like Demon Hunter, that's within the Christian world. Like, today I don't really, especially Skillet, don't really listen to them as much, but, like, they were instrumental in bridging me over. So I feel like Marvel can be that point for many people.
Sure.
So Marvel kind of helped me appreciate cinema more. And from that, I've been kind of seeking out, been more intrigued by cinematography and the art of it. I'm still not crazy about movies, like crazy, but, like, I appreciate them more, and definitely enjoy something like even the Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, where it's such a crazy, fun visual experience, where it satisfied me in that way, and so I've kind of been enjoying that. As a creator, you also just think about things, overanalyze things, even of how they're made, right? So all that, I'm starting to appreciate, different directions, cinematography or whatever, and in comes A New Hope. And so different. It's the most, and also to be fair, it's probably the oldest thing I've ever watched.
Right.
But it's so different. So different. My roommate described it in a really interesting way in that within the movie, they're not aware it's a movie. Many movies are meant to be a movie experience. What I was talking about, like that cinematic pinwheel almost, where it's like very movie-esque. You know what I mean? Like they have the weird lingering stares. They have stupid lines. You know what I mean? There's things that just, don't happen kind of things. You know what I mean? And which kind of weirded me off as it related to movies, right?
Sure.
And then in comes A New Hope, where it's, for what it is, it being a sci-fi adventure, is so surprisingly realistic. In that it's like you stuck a camera in somebody's life and it just followed them. It's like the reality show without the scripting and fluff.
Mm-hmm.
It's so shockingly that, and it completely shocked me. Because ironically, I feel like 3 years ago, that's almost what I would have wanted. I'm not saying I would have enjoyed it, but I'm saying in terms of a movie, that's almost what I would have wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I've almost moved past it. Not saying I don't want it, but I've almost moved past it and started accepting more of the art. And then I actually got hit with realism that it sent me reeling. There's part of me sometimes when I don't think I'm ever gonna work on a movie like, in such a way like directing or writing.
Of course.
But there is part of me that if I do work on a movie, I want to try a realistic angle. You know what I mean? Because I want to break the bounds and bonds of movie making where it does kind of take you off guard, but not enough where it's like you're wondering what you just watched, you know what I mean? But also creative in other ways as well, especially of late where I'm definitely thinking more creatively. But yeah, so yeah, it really surprised me. There's, whether you agree with me or with how I've been explaining it or not, I think most people can agree there's just a certain style to the original trilogy. I don't know if it's been done before, but from what I've seen, it's really unique. And so for each movie, I started to understand and grasp it a little more. So I enjoyed 5 more than 4. I enjoyed 6 more than 5. You know what I mean? Not to say I loved them, but I appreciated them more.
Mm.
Now, let's talk about the emotional angle a bit. Marvel has, yes, we have our big team-up adventures like Infinity War or whatever, our Avengers movies. But they all stemmed from individual movies where we follow one certain character and follow their journey, whether it's emotional or not. But most of the time, there's some sense of emotion that runs alongside of it. Honestly, many of the Marvel movies have some romance plot in them, so that's a huge factor in movies, period. Obviously, there is romance in Star Wars, but the thing is, there's in the original trilogy, we follow 3 people, but we don't necessarily exclusively follow 3 people. I mean, there is an emphasis on Luke, but this is not Luke's story. But we're watching his story. You know what I mean?
It's more of the Skywalker story.
That's true.
So Luke, Leia, and Vader.
And Solo, who's not a Skywalker, but he's still part of the story.
He's with Leia, so
Right.
he's there.
Unlike Revenge of the Sith, where it really focuses on Anakin's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler, I really like that, but we can talk about that a little later. But it's just, I didn't get that emotional thing I was expecting from Star Wars that I surprisingly got from Marvel and enjoyed Marvel for that. And then I was expecting it in Star Wars, and I didn't get that. I couldn't really connect with any of the characters. I mean, Harrison Ford is really cool, but that's kind of it, you know? It's not like I can connect with Ewoks.
Right.
Which they're super cute, I think.
You mean you're not a teddy bear on a wood in the redwoods, trying to eat the first thing you see,
They're cute.
worshipping a golden droid?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here's the thing that might shock a lot of people. I had no sympathy for the rebellion. Now, obviously, the common movie trope, of course I want the good guys to win. But they had no emotional reaction out of me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I didn't necessarily care if they won. Obviously, I wouldn't have liked it if they lost, because obviously we want good guys to win. But there was nothing that made me want the rebellion to win. There was nothing making me cheer them on. I think part of it is lack of context.
A lot of the context was just said in dialogue very casually, and you'd miss it easily. And I think it's definitely better with just knowing the context through the prequels. And then for me, it's also, I have even more context from just TV shows, books, and other histories that don't exist anymore. So, it was interesting seeing your perspective. It's like that. It's like, really? You don't really care about the rebels? Oh, yeah, because it doesn't... Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So,
Yeah. Also, back to the reality aspect, like, I think that's especially evident, especially at the first act of episode 5, but even the first act of episode 6. I don't remember the first act of episode 4. But, like, if you cut out that first act, it really wouldn't affect the movie at all. But it just kind of shows, like, okay, this is something that happened to them, which is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. Not against it, but it just really, it's just interesting, you know what I mean?
sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, you could bring up points about each of the movies, and I could probably say something about it, but not enough to remember how different 5 is from 6.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So give me time. I am intending to go through Star Wars again in a few months.
Yeah.
Like, in depth.
With the
Clone
addition
Wars.
of Clone Wars and Rebels.
And the sequels.
Sure.
Mandalorian,
You're gonna,
whatever.
Oh, you're going to do the movie sequels as well?
I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this, my intention this time, I watched the first 6 and Rogue One. I wanted to get my head in Star Wars.
Okay.
Give me time to process, then I'd want to watch the sequels. You know what I mean? Because I kind of want to see... I mean, it's tempting to just go ahead and watch the sequels from a fresh perspective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And go in blindly and potentially like them. But at the same time, I've always thought the Star Wars world is kind of confusing. It's not as confusing just going through the movies to some degree, you know what I mean? If you're there's just so many Star Wars nerds out there that it seems really confusing. But like if you think of it simply, it's not hyper confusing. Anyways, but I just wanted to understand Star Wars as it was, as it has been belovedly known prior to 2015, and just appreciate that as is. You know what I mean? So that again, I'm wanting to kind of play into the nostalgia bias that a lot of people have. be like, okay, this is what people know as Star Wars. So yeah, I will. So yeah, I plan to go through the whole shebang later. Stay tuned on the podcast as I will be giving updates. My current project is Pixar, but we're not there yet. Let me talk about the prequels. Unless there's anything else about the original trilogy.
Let's get to the prequels.
Yeah. So in time, I'll probably give more thoughts on the original trilogy when I go through them again, or just Star Wars in general. I want to kind of rank things. I will say probably New Hope is my least favorite, but again, I want to rewatch it and really give stat. You know what I mean? Later.
Yeah.
Prequel trilogy, which I kind of did enjoy due to its modern edge, but it still felt like Star Wars, unlike Rogue One, and we'll talk about that later. So there was, again, more modern edge, which kind of helped me connect with it a little more. From, again, I haven't seen, we'll say, any old movies. Not to say I'm not against watching them, right? Like I want to go through some of them just to, for history's sake, you know what I mean? But, anyways, yeah, so there was more of a modern connection, but it also still kind of felt like Star Wars. Like it didn't feel much of a deviation like Rogue One. Again, I enjoyed 1 more than 6 because of me just kind of appreciating Star Wars more. I'm starting to, understand the world a bit, and also, I was kind of appreciating it a bit. I don't really know much else more to say about that. It was really crazy. I will say it's also just crazy how much bigger it was, obviously due to technology, but it's still just crazy. And it's weird to think about the original trilogy now after seeing the prequel trilogy and Rogue One. It's just like the original trilogy feels so small because they couldn't do as much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And obviously that is the story that is told, and it probably will be retold as such in the future. But it's still crazy to think about that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't really know specific thoughts to give about number 1.
See, I don't know. Again, I don't know if they will. I don't think they should do a reboot. But also, I don't know if they're legally allowed to.
Really?
Because when George sold Star Wars, he definitely made strict guidelines under the deal made to sell it. One was that they couldn't re-update any of the movies any further with special editions.
Really?
Yes. Like whatever we have, whatever is done there, that's it. Don't mess with it anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if his other condition was don't reboot and remake it.
Because I just feel like, especially in our world of franchise-based things,
and constantly rebooting franchises
right.
as well.
I mean, I don't see one in the distant horizon for Star Wars, but in 100 years, you know what I mean? Where it's okay, well, let's do it again. You know what I mean?
Sure. When we're dead and gone.
And when we're dead and gone. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little curious to see how streamlined it would be. You know what I mean? Sure. To see, the transition from Sith into Rogue One into New Hope, and that to be more seamless. You know what I mean? I personally would be more intrigued. And on one end, the quality, you know what I mean? But, to see it kind of streamlined, I would be really curious about that. But, anyways. So, yeah, I mean, one similar to the original trilogy, I don't have a lot of deep thoughts on. Little Anakin was cute. Wasn't crazy about Jar Jar, but I don't hate him. I prefer C-3PO. I mean, I know he wasn't as prominent as Jar Jar, but even so, both characters can't just make comments at the worst times,
Right.
Which is just rough. Jar Jar did make me laugh sometimes. I mean, I do consider myself a child in some regards with humor, but it just wasn't over the moon,
Of course.
Which I'm just stating, just because I know some people have either very specific thoughts about Jar Jar or just like standard, just yes or no's. Just thought I'd expound for the heck of it. Now we'll get into more specific thoughts with the next two. Number 2.
Oh, I just really enjoyed watching this with you because like I knew that like it was gonna be a train wreck watching through the romance plot of this movie with you, because you were especially like you were enjoying bantering about the Anakin Padme's lines in a Phantom, like, "Are you an angel?" That that whole thing, to the point where when the second one came along, and we got angsty Anakin and great dialogue, like, "I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, and it gets everywhere. I like here it's soft and smooth."
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yes,
bro, that's almost. I mean, like, if they didn't know each other, that's pure creep energy. But also, they don't like know each other that much. But also, Padme was blind enough to love Anakin.
You.
Oh my god. Oh,
I killed them. I killed them all, and not just the men, but the women and the children. They're animals, and I slaughter them like animals. I hate them.
And she just squats down and comforts him.
It consoles him, yeah.
Because most girls would slap you in the face and leave you and never talk to you again.
Sure.
But if you're so blindly in love, of course you're going to comfort your man.
It's like, "Oh, I know. They killed your mother."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
No.
Like, you pause after each of those scenes.
I paused 5 times during the lake scene.
In just the span of like 60 seconds, you pause so many times.
Like you're gonna pause again. I tried not to, and the scene ends.
It's like,
and I'm like, I have to. I'm pissed.
It's like, Christopher, you're gonna pause again in 30 seconds, and then like 5 seconds passed, and you paused again, and then 30 more seconds passed, and then you pause again. It's like,
here's the thing: if I want to watch a stupid rom-com, I know what I'm getting myself into.
yeah.
I watched 4 Star Wars movies. I wanted a 5th Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? What did I get? Oh my gosh.
It had to happen at some point, you know.
Not that bad.
Somebody had to be
I thought episode 5 with the Layla.
the mother of Luke and Leia.
Like the Layla and like Solo the stuff, like, I could care less about, but it wasn't like over the top cringe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It happened. I was still like, oh, whatever. But just like, but the fact that this was a literal co-plot of the movie was beyond me. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Whew. I don't know, man.
Yeah. But let's just move on.
No. Like, this is me pausing right now.
Yeah, but like, we want to move on.
I don't want to move on.
So that we can get to the road cut.
I don't want to move on.
I do.
John, do you see how distressed I am?
I know.
This is... Man.
I wish I could just wish away my feelings.
That movie made me feel something for the first time. Pure hatred for Anakin.
I'm haunted by the kiss you shouldn't have given me.
Oh my god. Second, almost honestly, really the last third of the movie was cool.
Yes.
You can't necessarily
and that's
deny
like
that.
the main thing that I would rewatch it as a kid was for the bright action scene.
Like the Obi mystery plotline is intriguing, but it's obviously not intriguing enough or not as detailed enough for it to be the main plot of the movie.
Sure.
And of course, you always make your young characters front and center. So we had the romance thing, but it was just so heavy-handed. Like, that movie needs to be 20 minutes shorter or something. I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, the second half, at first I was saying second half, but I really think it's more or less the last third. The last third, you can't deny it's great, but it really can't, like, it really doesn't save the movie for me. And not even, like, Natalie Portman being in the movie, that doesn't even save the movie, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it's too much of a cringe fest for me to think highly of it. And somehow it beat out Spider-Man 3. I truly think so.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I was more reactive towards this in Spider-Man 3. Like, I think I was able to swallow most of Spider-Man 3 and thought it was bad. You know what I mean? I paused.
But, like, that was like a cartoonish bad. Like, this is just bad writing.
Yeah, Spider-Man was almost just, like, weird.
Yes, it was weird, but, like, it was still kind of acceptable. This was, like...
I mean, like, I wasn't crazy about the Maguire movies in the first place, so it didn't necessarily help that movie for me.
Sure.
But this was... Yeah, this was another level.
This was another level.
And again, like... At least, like, this has a better third act than Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I know you can do things with Spider-Man, but there's not much you can do with Spider-Man at the same time. Arguably.
Correct.
Like, all you can do is shoot webs. At least here we have... Now, I know we had other people involved in that third act, but, like, here you have a mixture of people who come in near at the last minute. You know, we have the guns. We're trying to escape, you know, animals. And then you have lasers and swords, and then you have the ships flying over, and then you go to a different location to have a laser battle, and then Yoda shows up and is really cool. You know, I mean, it just keeps building to amazing levels. Like, you know, like it is hard to top almost. You know what I mean? But to sit through the first hour plus of cringe is really, really, really rough, and I don't know, man. I really probably would rather watch Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, so the rewatch for that one should be interesting for you.
Oh my gosh. We've talked about, like, theater experiences a little bit, me and you. I don't know if I've talked about on the podcast, but, like, during Doctor Strange, I had to pee so bad, just 10 minutes in. Like, you know, I can pause to use the bathroom. You know, I have good speakers. I have a projector. You know, obviously it's not the huge, massive projection, but it works. It's better than watching something on my phone. I was bored of watching stuff on my computer. I'm so glad I got a projector. Like, it's just awkward watching things on a computer sometimes. You know
but you got your headphones and they sound nicer.
I mean, okay, here's my thing with headphones right now. Because I work at a place where I wear a headset for 8 hours.
Sure.
I don't want to wear headphones at home. I will sometimes, but, like, I don't want to watch a movie on headphones.
Cool.
And also, it depends what kind of headphones you have. And speakers. But honestly, yeah. My speakers are good speakers. Obviously, you get a little bit different experience with headphones and speakers, but let's be honest. At a theater, you use speakers. You know what I mean?
So, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, my point is, I like my home experience because another thing, I know movies aren't necessarily made to be paused, but if I want to pause a movie, I'm going to pause a movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I remember there was one movie where there was, like, one line that just got me so much, like, I was laughing. Like, I loved it. But, like, it was too much for me to handle. It just, like, brought the giggles on me. I paused, and I probably paused for, like, a solid 10 minutes because I couldn't get over that line. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I want to be able to process things on my own time. Revenge of the Sith. Quick preface. Going through all this hasn't made me love Star Wars. I'm intrigued enough to finish what I've started. You know what I mean? I want to see the sequel stuff. I want to see Clone Wars or whatever. You know what I mean? I want to finish what I've started. You know what I mean? Because I also told John, probably even on podcast, like, seeing how much I got into Marvel, if I got into another universe, I'm going to be invested in it. You know what I mean? I'm not taking it lightly, you know? And I'm invested enough into Star Wars where I do want to just see how things play out, you know? So, yeah, I don't consider myself a Star Wars fan. Star Wars casual.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, that... And I still would use that term very loosely. You know what I mean? I'll watch it to watch it. So again, other than number 2, where I had emotional feelings for Anakin, against Anakin, more or less. I've come away from the Star Wars movies pretty unscathed. Not... And again, like, I want to be able to analyze the movies as is, but also, like, and I want to, you know, be able to analyze, I don't necessarily, I respect the Star Wars movies. I don't love them like I did with the Marvel movies, right? Revenge of the Sith, though. That was the emotional hit I wanted. That movie, I feel like, unlike the other movies, followed more or less a specific character. We saw that person's journey, and not just like he was struggling between one side and another side, and you know, to see his journey going through that, and whether you connect with the character or not, you're invested in the emotional journey. Oh my gosh. Like, I was... Like, already, like, the movie has a different feel for it, you know, compared to, like, the other movies, while it's still feeling like Star Wars, but, like, it was still, like, wow. You know what I mean? I can't help but praise that movie. Obviously, like, I think it's kind of similar to Infinity War in a way where there's a build-up. So if you don't necessarily have that build-up, might not mean as much to you, but I do feel like, you know, Revenge of the Sith is more standalone than Infinity War.
Sure.
Definitely more standalone than Endgame. So I feel like it still could have, you could just go into it. I feel like I could, if someone hadn't seen Star Wars to them, I could just show them Revenge of the Sith and they'd like it. You know what I mean?
Oh, boy.
I think, like...
I mean, it was my first movie.
Right.
And I was attached to it, not because of the emotional stuff, but because it was flashy and cool. But that's just me being a kid.
Right. I think, like, obviously you don't have the context that has been established by the prequels or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even the original trilogy. But I feel like there's still enough where it stands alone. Maybe not as well as, like, The Dark Knight. But anyways, yeah, I can't deny that's good. Like, I could kind of care less about the rest of Star Wars. But Revenge of the Sith is amazing. It really is. I really...
And it doesn't hold back on anything.
It doesn't.
I mean,
like,
does, but
it's
it doesn't.
constrained within its rules of Star Wars, which I appreciate. You know, it didn't go full Logan, and it didn't have to.
No.
But, like, it did what it needed to do. Yeah.
Because, like, just the implication of Anakin going up to those younglings.
Oh my gosh.
And turning on his lightsaber.
That was heavy.
Just the imagination is heavier than actually seeing him going around killing them.
That was heavy. Like, yeah, it just, like, has such a good, proper build-up. And, like, man, I will say, though, like, there is part of me that feels like the ending does linger a little much. Because there are some...
Because they have to, like, put in the ties to, like,
Right.
this is how it connects to this
They
movie.
do.
Yes.
I feel like, there still could have been like aspects that have been like shorter, you know what I mean? Not as long. But the thing is, like, I'm just like emotionally heavy
Mhm.
where it almost does no good to me. You know what I mean? I think the amazing thing about Infinity War is that it essentially just ends there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously, because they were able to make another movie, right? I mean, they had to, right? But, like, Infinity War just ends there. And you were left with that emotion. They're not trying to patch it up for you. I mean, yes, there is an end credit scene that teases Captain Marvel, so that's a joy for the people, at least at that time. But, like...
And, like, George did say that it was very important that the end of, like, every Star Wars adventure, like, has to end with a glimmer of hope. Even in the darkness. Because, like, the hope at the end of Revenge of the Sith is you seeing Luke, because he is the new hope. At the end of the movie. That, like, eventually things will get better because of this action. So there you go.
Like, even with Padme dying and saying there's still good in him, I felt like was enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's still cool to see what they did do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm saying, like... But even with it kind of prolonged by showing her funeral, didn't do much for me. You know what I mean? Like, it was... For me, it was just sad enough to see her die. I didn't necessarily need the extra scene seeing her funeral. Like, it's cool seeing how they do it with Star Wars tradition customs in that city. You know what I mean? But, like, it didn't... You know what I mean? I was just ready for the credits to hit so I could mourn. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you almost talked about like the glimmer of hope, and despite it ending with the end credits, with the same music, it feels weird. You know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily pure mournfulness, but it's like that weird mixture where it's almost perfect. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I should feel better about this because I know how the original trilogy works. But, like, it's so heavy at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, I think, again, like, the Revenge of the Sith was kind of the art piece I wanted. The emotional thing I wanted. Again, it didn't have to be full-on Infinity War for me to appreciate it, I would argue. I think enough just seeing Anakin's journey was, like, fascinating enough for me to connect and feel emotionally. But obviously, it did go to such a place where I was just like, this is something else. You know what I mean? Yeah, I really can't stop singing that one's praises. I think in the long run, it was worth it getting there, but at the same time, it was still a really rough journey through the first 5, where I wonder, was it worth it? You know what I mean? It's a mixture of both.
Sure.
I think I'm excited to watch through the Star Wars stuff again because I know what I'm expecting. That's the thing, because I didn't know what to expect at the same time going into Star Wars. So I didn't necessarily know it was going to be different as it was. And so that threw me off. I usually like to do my research and know what I'm getting myself into, which ironically didn't happen with Black Swan. I pretty much just saw Natalie Portman, and I've heard good things about it, okay, I'll watch it. And then started getting into some gore moments, oh dear, what did I get myself into?
Right.
But generally, I want... But let's be honest, with Black Swan, if I didn't know Natalie Portman was in it, if I didn't know it was a thriller, I wouldn't have watched it. You know what I mean? So, at least there was some there was a little bit that, went into my brain that made me want to watch it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, Star Wars, so many people love it. That's why I watched it. You know what I mean? I didn't watch it because it's Star Wars. I watched it because people love it. So yeah, now with Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Which we watched this morning.
We did.
It's one that I really enjoy. but it is. You have to say that it was noticeably different.
The style that I had worked so hard for 6 movies to come to accept was completely thrown out the window for this movie. I'm not necessarily saying that's bad. I'm not necessarily saying they can't do anything different. But still, like, at least I feel like with the MCU, there is, for the most part, a sense of consistency despite the different things that they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously George Lucas wasn't well, not obviously for some people, but for many people, you know that George Lucas wasn't involved in Rogue One, so there's an aspect where his direction isn't in it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there are students enough of cinema where I do believe they can replicate it, a certain feel if they wanted to.
Right.
From what I'm hearing, they didn't do that with the sequel trilogy, right? Not as much.
I mean, here's the thing.
Okay, explain.
I would say that they did everything to make this look like a Star Wars movie for the sequels, without actually creating a story behind it. Because because they'll just repeat a lot of the things we've already seen in Star Wars and say, here you go, it's different.
So, but the thing is, like, Rogue One, it still looks like Star Wars.
Yeah,
we got our ships, we got our laser
because
stuff.
like it's set in the exact same time period.
But it doesn't feel like Star Wars. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Again, I do believe, like, again, I don't feel like Multiverse Man is a good example, but I don't know what's a good example.
It's a hard thing to describe the feeling of Star Wars.
It is hard.
Because, like, you either know it or you don't.
Yeah. And there's some people who are arguing, well, it's an anthology, it doesn't have to feel like the thing. I don't really care. You know what I mean? If there's Star Wars attached to it in my brain,
Sure.
I wanted it to feel like Star Wars.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because it threw me off how unique it was. So then after watching 6 movies, that's what I'm expecting from Star Wars. And then this is telling me, well, screw that, you don't know what you're going to get for any Star Wars property. You know what I mean?
And that's that's how people feel about Star Trek today. Star Trek fans today, they feel like their stuff is no longer Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more obvious there than
Right.
Star Wars. But, yeah.
That was just really hard for me. Now, Rogue One isn't a bad movie.
No.
I'll just say now, the ending is really hype. Like, I was hyped.
Yeah, like,
for not like
the third act is just really hype.
Well, not more than just I meant like the last 3 minutes.
I know, but the last 3 minutes are great.
The last 3 minutes got me hyped for one who doesn't even like Star Wars.
Right.
Anyways, that aside, like, it's a well done movie, but it's so much of a movie.
Yeah, because it's a war movie.
I don't care if it's a war movie or not. It feels like a movie. It doesn't
Sure.
feel like a Star Wars movie.
Sure.
I believe you can mix the two. I believe you can mix the aspect of it feeling like a war movie and it being a Star Wars movie. But they didn't necessarily try to. They're like, oh, it looks like Star Wars, let's make a war movie. Which it's fun. It genuinely is fun, but that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting a Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? And again, first impressions, like, that's the thing. I don't know. I have an appreciation for Rogue One. I do. But again, it's just the fact that I've been taught and been trained for 6 movies to expect a certain thing from Star Wars. And it's completely thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really... I mean, not as rough as like episode 2 and bad writing, but it was really rough for me to accept the fact that almost what I had worked for wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? So, a standalone movie, it's good. There were some people recommending me to watch Rogue One first, and beforehand, I was like questioning myself. Should I have started with Rogue One and then gone into the original trilogy? But at this point, I'm so glad I didn't, because Rogue One would have set me up so poorly that then going into the original trilogy, I would have expected something completely different. Sorry. Yeah, it works both ways. Or whatever. What I was thinking and what came out. Anyways, but no, the original trilogy is completely different from what Rogue One is and what normal movies are, that I would have struggled even more during the original trilogy than I already did. Because Rogue One would have taught me to expect a certain thing. Yeah. It's not bad. Let me touch on the emotional thing for a moment. It's kind of cool that we do follow a singular character kind of thing. The thing is, again, didn't really have much emotional connection. Arguably, the common, trope is, to find a loved one, right? And so that was kind of the first half of this movie. Our main character was trying to find her dad. Then she finds her dad and dad dies. The end. Now, the only reason she has to live now is to carry on her father's legacy, essentially, right? Which is awesome, sweet. But the emotional passion of trying to find her father was lost now. Like, she did, she didn't really care about the mission, right? She was more overwhelmed to see a hologram of her dad than to be like, we have a mission. Now, obviously, she wanted to do the mission for her dad, right? But she didn't. I thought it was really cool to see a character who didn't care about the politics. You know what I mean? She did it for her dad. But at the same time, like, once her dad died, whatever emotional connection I had was just kind of gone. I was, it's a fun movie, but just kind of lacked some heart, and I bet there are some people who will tell me otherwise, that they found it emotional, or honestly a lot of Star Wars for that matter. But sure. I will say, out of the first five that were released, and Rogue One, I can see I can connect more with Rogue One than those five, you know what I mean? And then maybe second would be 2 if I am an angsty teen. But I'm not. I'm not an angsty teen in love, so I don't connect with that at all. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But regardless, yeah. And that is me going through Star Wars, unless there are any other points you want to extract from me.
I don't have any other points to extract. Mm-hmm. That's our first viewing of Star Wars.
Yes.
So
again, for your heads, I'm planning to go through Pixar next.
Right.
That's just a personal passion project.
Right.
And then might watch some DC things and then hit Star Wars.
Right.
Again.
But yeah, my original idea was to also go through Clone Wars, to help give more emotional weight to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. But the time it would take to do that would not have worked out well with my trip here. So that would be on your rewatch.
Yes. I'm relatively excited. Like I said, I'm interested enough to explore.
Right.
But I'm not invested where I love Star Wars.
Right.
So it's going to be a fun time regardless.
Yeah. I hope you have enjoyment with Clone Wars.
I hope so too, especially considering how long it is.
And also, it's my favorite thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy that you really like Revenge of the Sith. It's my favorite of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you like Clone Wars, please. If it's fine if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
There is that.
That was what I mainly came here to see and do.
Yeah, so now
there's other smaller Star Wars related things that I could show you.
You'll probably do that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, most likely. There you go.
Yeah. So
That's that plan.
now John can leave in peace.
I can leave in peace.
Yeah.
I can leave early if I want to,
You
but
could,
I won't
so you
because
won't.
we have plans.
Yeah, we have plans. So tonight,
We're gonna watch X-Men Rogue Cut for Days of Future Past.
so excited.
I am too. I've not seen it.
I've been. Days of Future Past is my favorite X-Men movie, and I've been wanting to rewatch it
Sure.
since seeing it for the first time. And so I'm just. There's part of me that kind of wanted to see the original cut one more time before seeing the road cut, because I kind of feel like once I see the road cut, I'm not going back. We'll see.
We'll see.
But I mean, I've heard enough good things about it where that might be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll probably watch a few other things. Like we've floated around Tenet. You're gonna visit Silver City.
Yeah. I also shadowed a show today.
Yeah, he went to the place I work, Sight and Sound Theaters, and got the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for just so he can keep in his head, you know, what to expect if he wants to work at Sight and
I
Sound.
was keeping the idea of the surroundings, like what it looks like, because like I know basic theater work, so
Right.
I wasn't going like, oh, how do you like move the sets, or like how do the lights work? I was just observing.
Were there any elements though that did surprise you though?
Surprise.
Whether it during the show or behind the scenes. Whereas, I mean, you talked about the projections. You like the
I
projections.
like the
of show.
projections, but it's like it's all things that I can see it and be like, okay, I know how they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see animals. I don't normally see animals, and so I really like seeing animals.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not like, how do they do the animals?
A lot of training, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So yeah, no.
I will say one. So just for your head, why not? Essentially, we reward the animals. So
Well, I know how.
Oh,
they,
you do know that?
I know how they do the animals.
okay, for people who don't know, you incentivize the animals.
I was making a joke.
You were joking, okay, John. Sorry, I'm still learning.
You know, it wasn't a good joke,
It wasn't a good joke.
but like it was a joke.
It was a joke.
How do they do the
How did they do-
animals?
Are they real or not? Actually, there is a mixture of real and not real. Not for this. Actually, no.
We have fake lambs.
We have fake lambs.
You have fake lambs.
Well, yes, this show, fake lambs. But I mean, the other shows, I think it might be a little more apparent. Like Noah, there's way too many animals for all of them to be real.
Yeah, I saw the warehouse with the old Noah.
Oh, you saw the warehouse?
I saw the warehouse with the old
Yay!
Nelson. I saw some animals there.
Isn't it crazy? Like going in the warehouse, just like seeing these sets. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm glad I took you over there.
Yeah.
That's an experience. Sweet.
Sweet. So what's next in life? We don't know.
Road cut.
Yes, we know what we're gonna do next in life.
Yes, me too. Yeah. So, well, I think it would be fun to do one more episode before you go, just to catch up on a few other things we've seen.
Okay.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
Silver City.
And like this is just for like my trip here.
Yes.
Like we haven't done the podcast in weeks.
Yes.
There are things that I don't even remember
Yeah.
that we last talked about.
Yeah.
We should have been doing the battle mix weeks ago.
We should have. Like, I feel like
I thought that we were gonna get through more mixes this week, but like, nah, it's
No.
fine. It's fine, honestly.
The thing is, like, there's still a few tracks where I just don't know what they are. You know what I mean? Which sucks.
Yeah,
So, like next time
but like
we do
now that you've seen Star Wars,
hopefully, but also my brain isn't on the music. You know what I mean?
right, because and also the speakers didn't help the music much. That's my complaint about the speakers. Audio is fine. The music is low.
No, that's on them for mixing it poorly. But the thing is, like, I don't want to continue on this.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening.
Well, I would just say, like, you know, I think next time we do a call, I think that let's force myself to do the battle mix next time we call.
oh, we will. Like even if we have nothing to
Oh
say.
my gosh. Okay. That's fair.
we'll be like,
Sweet.
this is this.
But yeah, but I really want to do one more episode in person while we can. You know what I mean? That was kind of my thought. You know, let's.
You guys get that next week.
Yay.
We'll get this like thing tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.